So my full name is Wajiko Felicia Bogwa Njoroge. I am an infant preschool psychiatrist at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and where I'm also the Associate Chair of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. I'm also a student professor at the University of Pennsylvania Perelman School of Medicine in the Department of Psychiatry, and I am faculty at the Policy Lab at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So I am a cis Black woman. I am half Kenyan, Kikuyu specifically. And I also identify as a sister, a daughter, a niece, a cousin, a homie, a best friend, as well as being a physician. Yeah, so when I was little, I wanted to be a physician, and I thought I was going to be an OB, actually. That was the initial thought. And then I had an experience during a summer where I was able to work at a center that was the combination of a community-based organization that served a predominantly historically Black neighborhood with behavioral health or mental health at that time, as we called it, needs. That summer, my job was to actually provide babysitting services to children whose parents had an identified psychiatric illness and were coming to the center for groups, therapy, to meet with their counselors. And by having childcare on site, as well as transportation and dinner, the goal was really to ensure that this historically underserved and marginalized community would be able to access care. So it was that summer and that experience that really led me to have an interest in child psychiatry, because many of those children were quite different than the children that I had typically been babysitting during my, entire sort of like early and mid-adolescence, and recognizing that their behaviors, for their developmental and chronological ages really were not what I had been expecting when I had signed up for that gig. It was really interesting. And then the team was really supportive of me asking them questions, of including me actually on some of their sort of research and community-based group meetings, and really led me to understand the needs of not only the adult population, but also their children who had not had identified psychiatric illnesses and or comorbidities. Well, I had the benefit of doing my fellowship at the All Child Study Center underneath the program direction of Dr. Dorothy Stubbe. And she ensured that when every fellow came in to the Child Study Center, that they became members of the Academy, so much so that the Child Study Center actually paid for our fellow membership dues. So I became a member as a fellow and attended my first conference in person as junior faculty. And I've been a member ever since, participating ever since. The ACAP was welcoming to me as a fellow member, even though I couldn't attend the Academy meetings. But if I would email more senior ACAP members with questions about a case or something else, they would always respond. And then when I was actually able to attend the meetings, I really recognized what a wonderful professional home the Academy was and has continued to be. That led me to join as a fellow, and junior faculty person. There's a lot of ability to go to different committee meetings and sit in. And so I would go to the infant and preschool committee meetings and the diversity and culture committee meetings and participate in both of those groups, and have continued to do so up until now. I also used to be a program director for the Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Fellowship at CHOP, and therefore was a member of ADPER, which is basically the Association of Directors of Psychiatry Residency Training, and attended those meetings regularly as well. But I have since passed that duty on to another colleague here, and so I don't really attend ADPER as much. I do occasionally attend the American Psychiatric Association meetings, more frequently when they're on the East Coast, but at times, if I am, collaborating with colleagues and our submission is accepted, then I will travel for the meeting. But those are really the psychiatric, the sort of national psychiatric academies that I'm a part of. There are a couple of others that are sort of loosely affiliated. One is the Society for Research in Child Development. That really is more for folks who are doing developmental work sort of across the spectrum. So both for littles and up to early adolescence, mid-adolescence, even late adolescence. And then I also participate in am a member of the World Association of Infant Mental Health, which again is a global body of folks who are involved in thinking about and serving populations with children, with very young children at the age of 5. So those are sort of like my big 5. Actually, I was talking to my brother. So my brother's a historian at the University of Hawaii. And so we were talking just the other day about some of my clinical work, because again, I'm an infant psychiatrist, and I started a lab here at CHOP called the Young Child Clinic, where we see children birth to 5. After completing my child fellowship and then an infant research and policy fellowship at Yale, I then came to CHOP and then went briefly to University of Washington in Seattle Children's Hospital. But my brother and I were talking about sort of the joy of working with very little children, in that, for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to do a child psychiatry rotation or elective, we spend a lot of time in play, trying to understand and interpret their children's world through play. With the little ones, that's even more important, because their language may not be developed enough for them to necessarily tell you their story, but they can narrate it through their play. Because we spend so much time in play, they often seem to think that I'm a peer. So I've gotten invitations to sleepovers where parents would pick me up, since I wouldn't be able to drive myself. I've had invitation to swim parties. I've had invitations to birthday parties and all kinds of things, where my patients' parents are called my parents to make sure it's okay for me to come. And so I think when I think about my experiences of child psychiatry and practice, many times I think of my little ones who, think of me as one of them. And I think of that as a really nice way that I've been able to enter their worlds in such a way that they think that, we are indeed peers, and that it would be completely appropriate for me to have a sleepover where I can have the top bunk.
That is precious.
It's cute. Illegal, but cute. So I was talking to a medical student yesterday, actually, about child psychiatry specifically. And what I told her is what I will tell everyone here, which is that one of the beautiful things about the field of child psychiatry is the diversity of options. So I'm an infant preschool psychiatrist. I'm also a physician scientist. So I'm also a researcher. I have colleagues who are, master clinicians and master educators. I have colleagues who are really doing specifically policy work. I have colleagues who are only doing research. I think the beauty of child psychiatry is that you can have all of these options of careers and ways in which to serve, and that you can do that across the age spectrum. So when I was doing my child fellowship, and I was talking to an adolescent about sort of their lives, their experiences, their challenges, I realized that I cannot continue to do adolescent work, that was really not the place where I thought I could most serve children and families. And that is why I ended up doing another fellowship that specifically focused on 0 to 5. However, I have colleagues who similarly cannot understand what I'm doing with a 3-year-old and how I'm able to really impact their developmental health and their families. And they are very much more keen on working with teenagers, where they really feel like they can be impactful, or collaborating with schools and colleagues, where they feel, again, that their impact has a wider reach. So I think that really is one of the things I've really enjoyed about this field, is the ability to really find a pathway that you think you are passionate about, but also in a way in which you can best serve your community. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Black woman in the United States, so there have always been challenges. But again, I think, one of the challenges I faced um, is one I think that many um, BIPOC researchers of color, clinicians of color face, right? It's just trying to negotiate um, barriers that are sort of embedded within our healthcare system, embedded within our nation, and still trying to ensure that all children receive equitable care. So, it's very difficult, I think, to um, not at times personalize when you see these sort of significant historical factors and structures and systems that impact the lives of the children and families that we serve. I think and also recognizing that the ways in which to interrupt or disrupt these systems are not easy. And so how to sort of um, straddle that understanding and recognition, while again, still, pushing forward. I think at times it feels like, you feel like Sisyphus, like with this huge, and that can be exhausting. And particularly if you feel like you're the only one that is pushing that boulder up that hill. So, I think that what I found, not only, through sort of support of family and friends, but also is a network and a home within the academy of like-minded, um, diverse colleagues who are in similar situations across the nation, even if they are infant psychiatrists. But we're all having similar challenges of how, of just at times, you know, needing to tap out and to rethink and to, be more strategic and ways in which we can collaborate differently so that we can continue to face these challenges, which at times can seem insurmountable. And I think and I don't know that that's necessarily not same for everyone, but I think it's particularly different I can speak for Black folk. I won't necessarily speak for everybody. I think there is definitely a different kind of challenge. And then, as a Black woman with misogynoir, trying to disentangle when that is also part of what can make things challenging. So I think it's just recognizing all those factors, having, like I said before, homies within the academy that I can text or call or set up a Zoom link to just get a different perspective on how to navigate some of these challenging situations in which we find ourselves. I mean, I have the benefit of working with the littlest amongst us. And, they are cute as buttons. And they are, you know, really like wonderful little people to be around. Even when they have significant challenges, there still is like a sense of wonder and curiosity that helps me to understand why I do what I do. When I get tired, I really do think about some of the little ones I've had over the years, and wonder if the interactions that we had sort of helped them, helped their families. And I always hope so. Because I think that's what sort of propels me forward. I mean, I'm a psychiatrist, right? 90% of the brain develops in the first 5 years of life. Especially the work that I do, both clinically, from a policy perspective and research, is really being impactful. Because it is impactful, right? We're helping to really ensure that these children have the strongest neural connections possible, as well as these sort of relational contexts with their primary caregivers, secondary caregivers, their community partners, all of the neighborhoods, everything that we can do to really help impact change. So I think that's the joy. That's what helps me to get going when the going is tough. I mean, yeah, right. I mean, I practiced in both East and West Coasts. I practiced in diverse and not so diverse cities. Um, and, I was talking about it actually the other day. It came with my brother, because, it just was sort of funny that a parent challenged like my authority and kept asking to whom they could speak. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you this any clearer, right? But I am the authority. Like, it is my clinic. I actually created the clinic, developed all parts of the clinic. I run the clinic. I am the infant psychiatrist at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. There really are no others. And so we kept on going back and forth until, you know, asking like who else, like, I'm like, there is no other. And then he said, there's no one above you. And I said, the only person that is the chair of the department, who also happens to be a Black woman. What's the, you can reach her as well. I was like, however, I suspect he will send you back to me. But yeah, so I mean, those, it was a med student. They happened when I was a resident and fellow. Now they happen all these years later. Um, but again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the impacts of racism. There's sort of the systemic, the structurals that we know about and talk about quite a bit. And there's also the interpersonal and personally mediated that we also talk about quite a bit. With my patients, again, it's a bit different, right? They're under 5. So they, their questions are not based from the same sort of pot of bias and stigma necessarily, right? Not till they get a little bit older, but when they're little, I mean, they really are just curious, right, as to why my skin is dark or why my hair is short. Those are the kinds of things, but without the sort of the added element of there being if it being anything less than phenotypic differences, right? That they learn from the adults in their life. But, so the patients, like I said, I mean, for them, even when I've been in really not diverse settings, the patients still, because we're able to bond over our coloring or our dollhouse play or whatever it is that we're doing, again, like that, for them, I'm just someone new in their life who might look differently than everybody else. But after they've asked her questions about what happened to my hair, you know, and the girls usually have long hair, and why my hair, once we've sort of gotten past that, um, it's just it's it is just another new thing that they've learned. So yeah, so I think and that again, I think is the joy of working with my population is, sometimes parents will ask me, what should I call you? And I'll say Dr. Njoroge. And they're like, oh, I don't know. But for the kids, they have no problems because they can't spell. So for them, my name is just another new word. They have no understanding that in the United States, it may not be a familiar word to many, but for them, it's as new as any other word that they learn over the course of those early years. And so, yeah, they are able to see my name. And sometimes they'll ask me to spell it. Even when I spell it, and they try to write it down, it's still like they don't necessarily understand, but the N being silent, they still just, they don't, the, all of the rules that we attach, they don't know. And so again, for them, it's just a new word that they like to write. They like to put on the back of their pictures that, we did this picture together. Usually what they want to know more is my first name. And that's what they're more curious about. Because again, since we're buddies, they shouldn't be calling me Dr. Njoroge. They should be calling me Wachiko. So yeah, so I think, but I think it's something again that we all navigate. It's different times. At times it can be a source of frustration, but other times it's just one of like, this is what this is. So no, I had a really awesome family. I mean, my father immigrated from Kenya as a teenager. My mother grew up in Louisiana during segregation. So, and we have like large families on either side, both maternal and paternal. And, I was well prepared for the challenges I would face. as a Black woman. My parents did their level best to ensure that my brother and I had the best of education from the time we were like, well, I was 3, he's younger than I, so he was about 12 months, up through, you know, college, and then for both of us, um, grad school, med school for me, grad school for him. So, I think that foundation and the scaffolding of family. I mean, I also went to medical school in a city in which I had family, both my Kenyan family and my American family. So I had, aunts and uncles and cousins galore who would come and literally like bring me a plate. Because they
Nice.
worry. Yeah, would literally just show up with like a plate of food. And, would help like when I needed furniture for my apartment, we're like, we got it. Don't worry. So again, I think having that like really strong and loving and nurturing family um, that were both proximal and distal at various times really was helpful. And I think again, I mean, I was also always surrounded too by, like diverse groups. So when I was an undergrad, we had a Black students organization. We also had a Black pre-med organization. And so those were also for me homes of support and resources and knowledge on how to do this. I had an older cousin who at the time was in medical school, and she was a little bit ahead of me. So I was able to sort of call her. And then I have a cousin behind me who went into medicine. And so she's able to call the two of us. So also sort of that, sort of vertical familial support, as well as these networks in which I plugged myself in to ensure that I knew what I needed to do and knew how I needed to get done. I knew when there were roadblocks that I would face because others had faced them. And I think sort of, it's like that G.I. Joe slogan, right? Knowledge is power. So again, I was able to use all of that to ensure to the best that I could, right? Of how to get through. And I think that support for me was really helpful when things were tough. And then when I went to med school, in my class, there were 13 Black students. And so we again had our own like little group within our group of diverse students to ensure that we got through. So and then we had SNMA. So I've always had these organizations of, peers that are from diverse backgrounds and whose experiences may not be the same, but they are similar. And I think that's been really helpful in helping me to navigate systems which were new and different. So we meet every fourth Thursday of the month, 8 p.m. Eastern. So all are welcome. We also meet at the annual meeting this time or from now on, God willing, in person. And again, all are welcome. Like I said, I did this myself as a fellow, where I just went and sat and learned and listened and then volunteered when I could. So that is the same for the entire academy and all of our communities, but certainly for DNC. I think DNC was really a home for me to see all of these like diverse child psychiatrists that were coming from all over the country and had differing careers, right? There were some academicians, there were folks in private practice, there were training directors. I mean, it really was this really interesting group of folks with a passion and interest in diversity and culture specifically. So we annually, my co-chair and I are really trying to ensure that we continue that tradition of being welcoming, a welcoming home to all ACAP members and all, interested folks who are interested in becoming child psychiatrists to be able to join our committee meetings, to join in on projects. We are, I'm happy to say, a committee that is hugely active. We have, very brilliant junior people like Dr. Newsom, who put together interesting programming that we've never done before. So there are always these innovations, I think, that are coming out of DNC. And we are also extremely active in thinking about the generation beneath us. And so I feel like that has also been a tradition started by Dr. Spurlock of ensuring that we, put our hand down and back as we're also holding it up and out. So we are always eager to support students. I know folks that emailed me. I know those of you that email me are thinking, I emailed Dr. Dry. It took her 6 weeks to respond. And it may, but I will respond. And I often say, you should email Annika Archer, who is the director of some aspects of the academy and helps to support our efforts in DNC and can give you the links to our meetings and let you know what we're up to. And of course, we have a robust website where anyone can go and look and see a little bit about some of the products that have come out of this committee, as well as things that are on the horizon. I think maybe as sort of last thoughts, I would never want to, sort of looking for, disregard the challenges that specifically Black docs face. It is, like I said before, it is what it is. And, it is, it continues, as I've said, with some of my earlier examples. And what I would hope is that irrespective of those challenges that you might find yourself in, that you're able to continue and to persevere and recognize that many of us, if not all of us, have had those exact same experiences and continue to have those exact same challenges. We hope the work that we're doing makes it easier for those of you who come behind us, as those who are ahead of us have tried to do as well. We are clearly a growing number of Black and brown and diverse child psychiatrists. And we're hoping that with these kinds of programs and supports in place that we can continue to enrich and diversify child psychiatry. And I hope also that all of you know that we are out here, right? It may be hard to get in touch with us because the diversity tax is real. But, and I think that many of us feel like we need to be in as many spaces as possible. But in so doing, it also leads us to not be as easily or readily available as we would often like. But there are junior folks to whom you can also reach out who may have a little bit more accessibility in their time. And again, for those of us who are overextended, don't ever think that it's not important to us. It is. It is incredibly important to us. And many times we talk amongst ourselves about how we can do this better, how we can be in those spaces to make sure there's representation while still ensuring that we're supporting those of you who are following us. And it is something that we talk about and try to problem solve around, but know that we are here, that we are invested in your success because your success is our success, and your success at the end of the day will help improve the lives of children and families in the United States.